Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. In this video, we're going to be going back to the basics, and I'm going to be discussing 5 different things that you should be doing or that you should know about if you are currently using TSM to make your gold. So this will be directed towards the new users of TSM. However, these are applicable to everybody, but if you are a long-term user of TSM, you probably know about these 5 methods. But we're going to be starting at the very basics of TSM and just discussing these 5 things that you should either know or have done to your TSM to make sure you're making the most gold possible. Also, when this video releases, it will be the 23rd of December, so I hope you guys have an amazing holiday if you guys celebrate Christmas. Either way, I hope you have an amazing weekend, and of course, happy holidays to all of you, and to the students out there, I hope you enjoy your break. I definitely am. But without further ado, we are going to get straight into this video, and like I said, we're going to be starting right at the basics, which means we're going to be discussing the TSM Desktop application. So if you are a new user of TSM and you have not watched any sort of tutorials, you have strictly just downloaded the add-on, you definitely need to make sure that you have the TSM Desktop application downloaded and installed and running correctly. If you guys are confused and you're hearing this, you probably do not have it, which is something that you need to do straight away. On the TradeSkillMaster.com website, you will actually be able to download this application. It is a standalone program that is downloaded onto your computer, and you basically need it running 24/7 whenever you're playing WoW. What this application does is it basically gives all of your realm and region data to your clients so you can actually have good price sources, and so TSM can actually keep track of what exactly you're doing. So if your TSM tooltips look a little bit weird, or you feel like you're missing a lot of data that other people have had through screenshots or whatever, you probably do not have this, which you need to download. It is super simple, it is free, all you have to do is go on the website, and once you have it installed, you need to create an account to be able to sign in, and then you also need to add your realms to the account. So if you have the application, but you did not install your realm data, you will also need to do that. All the information is on the website, of course. But if you're on multiple realms, for me, I believe I have 8 realms listed on my account, so I'm able to collect all data from those 8 realms, so I don't have to worry about, TSM not working. So if you ever expand in the future, or you're looking to expand, I highly recommend going back in there, adding those multi-realms, and of course, make sure you have your main realm on there as well. But I'm not going to go too much into that since it's pretty simple. All the information is on the website. I just want to let you guys know because a lot of people come into the Discord asking for certain things or why TSM isn't working or they're not seeing this information, and most of the time it is because they do not have the TSM application and they did not even know it existed. Moving on to number 2, which is also kind of more of the simple thing, which is that there are TSM profiles. So what I mean by this is if we go into my current TSM and we go into my groups, as you can see right here, I have all of my groups and they're listed out, blah, blah, blah. They all have assigned operations to them, and this is my setup. Now, what TSM does, which is super awesome, is if you go into settings, you have different profiles. So this is actually all of the profiles I've had ever since Legion, starting at the very earliest one, all the way to the one that I'm currently using. And so what these are is it's basically your set operations and groups. So what I mean by this is, as you can see right now, we have this set like this. And if I go into my settings and I change over to, let's say, this crafter's gear one, if I go back over, as you can see, the group has changed, and also my different operations have changed. So this is super awesome if you are somebody who's importing a group, or you want to, mess with your groups or your operations without accidentally messing things up, or you imported a group and you want to test stuff out, or something along those lines. You are able to duplicate. So if you go over here, you can duplicate the profile so you have the exact same thing. So basically a fresh copy to mess with without, dealing or messing with the first one. And also you can strictly just type in something and create a fresh new blank profile. So you can start from scratch or you can import something into it. So just letting you guys know that there are profiles available, and we're going to be moving on to number 3. So number 3 is still keeping it pretty simple, and that is to avoid default operations. What I mean by this is if I go into my current groups, and let's say, I just select base group, so that's basically everything in my inventory, and I attempt to post, as you can see right here, because my Korthite crystals is not attached to a group, and because it's not attached to a group, it does not have an operation, but either way, if it's in a group or not, if there is no assigned operation, by default, you will have this hashtag default. And if you're somebody who has fresh TSM and has not either imported or set up your own operations, probably most things says this. And I want to say, if you are selling things that you really don't want to accidentally sell either at a loss or at just these really obscure prices, avoid TSM default. In your settings, you can actually go and look at what exactly default is. You can go under operations, auctioning, and default is right there. And it looks pretty confusing, but the minimum price is set super, super low, which is the scary part. As you can see, from this kind of mumble jumble of stuff, as you can see, the, average check it's looking for is 0.25, which is basically a fourth of the average of these values. So that minimum price can get super, super low, which can cause you to accidentally post items for way cheaper than you should be. Somebody came into the Discord today asking about, why their leather was being posted at a super low price, even though market value, is up at 5 gold. It was posting it at 2.5 or 3, and he really didn't want that. And that was because the group he was using did not have a special operation on it, and he was using default, and the minimum value is set super, super low, so it's very lenient and can cause you to price things at absurd prices. So because of that, I highly recommend either, using a group that you have found that you're comfortable with, or creating your own very simple group. It can strictly be, percent crafting or percent DB market. That is so much better than the default, and it will save you a ton of gold in the long run. I cannot tell you how many times in the past I have accidentally posted with default and not realized until I saw the gold value in my mailbox, realized what I sold, and it definitely screwed me over. So definitely make sure you check out and be aware of that hashtag default and try your best to stay away from it. Now, getting into the more complex things, we have about 3 topics to talk about. I know I said 5 at the beginning of this in total, but there's actually going to be 6 because 2 of these were pretty short, so I just wanted to give you a little bit more value for this video. But the first thing on the more complex side I want to talk about is fixing your prospecting and your milling sources for Shadowlands. So, if you are somebody who is looking into or currently doing inscription, or you are somebody who is, doing prospecting in terms of jewelry crafting, you definitely want to make sure you have set up custom price sources in order to get better representation of actual crafting cost. What I mean by this is by default, I will probably put a picture on screen. Inscription is generally always in the red, negative. However, if you use a spreadsheet or you manually calculate it, you will probably find that there is actually profit, but TSM just doesn't know better. And that is because TSM has a flawed system with, calculating prospecting prices and milling prices, and because of that, it just does not have an accurate representation. So there are a few things to do with this. Of course, you can just take the prices with a grain of salt, use an external spreadsheet, get those correct prices, and see if you want to craft that item. But, that takes up a lot of time, so I highly recommend using somebody's custom price sources. Personally, I will suggest Koya's video and data in order to do this. It is super simple. The video itself is 40 minutes long, but about half of it is explaining the methodology of how he came up with the numbers, etc. And honestly, you probably only need to watch 15 minutes of it to understand what exactly you're copy and pasting and where about you're doing that. But what this setup does is that it basically creates these custom price sources that allows you to have a better look and representation of your actual essences. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be importing a bunch of custom price sources into your TSM, and then you'll be going into this reports menu. And for, let's say the essence of rebirth, which is at currently 151 gold, as you can see, we have basically inserted this minimum prospect value into this to calculate our custom prospect. But, currently it's at that 151 mark, and if I were to erase this back to default, which is back to, what standard TSM is saying, as you can see, that price skyrockets to 196 gold per rebirth. Instead, if we add back that minimum prospect, it goes back to that 151. So using that custom price sources with the percentages it basically gives you a realistic value of these essences, and generally can actually give you and showcase to you that you can make a lot of profit that you did not even know that you could before. So this is really helpful for jewel crafting and inscription. And I know a few others have also kind of made their own custom price sources. I know Mantheus also created one. I'm not exactly sure how similar it is, but you can also see if his is updated, if that is something you want to use. Personally, I am using Koya's, but it really doesn't matter, whatever's best for you. But that is the first kind of complex thing I want to talk about, and we're going to be moving on to number 2. And the next thing I want to talk about is exactly how TSM calculates profit. And what I mean by this is if you hover over an item, for example, if I hover over this, necklace right here, TSM gives me an estimated crafting cost and potential profit with this item. Currently, it says I can craft this for about, 12.8 thousand gold, and I'll be making almost a 6,000 gold profit. Now, TSM gets this number by default using market value, or DB market, according to your material prices. So what I mean by this is, let's say we hover over Vigil's Torch, and currently the market value of Vigil's Torch is 14 gold and 42 silver. It is the second one on the list. So what this means is if a potion requires, Vigil's Torch, let's say it needs 2 of them or something like that, it will be calculated using that 14.42 number. So, if it's, you need 2 Vigil's Torch for a potion, of course that doesn't exist, but you would take 14.42 times 2, and you'll get, 28.8, and that would be your crafting cost. However, you realize that currently Vigil's Torch is actually cheaper than that. And so TSM will be saying, yes, the crafting cost is 28 gold. You can sell this for 30 gold. You will make 2 gold profit. But TSM does not realize that actually the minimum buyout is even cheaper at 13.45 gold, which is a very big plus for us because that means that the profit is even bigger than the estimate. So, for example, if I were to buy 2 Vigil's Torch right here, technically, according to market value, I should be spending 28.8 gold, but really, in reality, I'm only spending 26.7. So, that 1.2 gold profit, if I was selling for 30, is actually 3.1 gold. And so this is not a flaw with TSM, this is just strictly what TSM uses, because if you guys are unaware, market value is the weighted average of the price for the last 2 weeks. Weighted simply means that in the last 2 weeks, the price that it was yesterday is more weighted in the average than the price that it was 13 days ago. And so because this is the most stable number, technically somebody could come in here, buy all of this out, set this price to 70, and then minimum buyout would automatically be 70 gold, which is super unrealistic, so TSM uses that market value. But the reason I bring this to your knowledge, because if you are looking at profits and you're buying stuff on the auction house, you want to be aware of actually what you're currently buying the price for. For example, the Vigil's Torch would be completely fine because you're actually making more profit than you assume and you are at no risk of losing gold. If it says you can make profit by buying it at 14.4 gold, you can definitely make profit buying it at 13.4. But if we look for a bad example, let's see if I can find one. Let's say we were crafting enchants or something, and currently the market value is 35.7. That is the price that TSM will be collecting. But let's say the profit margins are super small or something like that. We'd have to be careful because we are actually buying this at 37.9 gold, or we can, even round this to, like 38 gold. So we are actually spending almost 3 gold more per shard than TSM is calculating for. So, of course, if you're making, like 100 gold profit on an item that only requires 3 shards, it doesn't really matter. You won't be making 100 gold. You'll probably only be making, 90 gold. But if it's something where the profit margin is super slim or it requires a ton of that item, you just want to be aware that TSM is using market value, so if you're buying for greater than that market value, you risk losing some gold. So just understanding exactly how TSM calculates, so if you are trying to, calculate it yourself and you realize that the TSM price and your calculated price doesn't always add up, that is because you are more than likely using the current min buyout, while TSM is using that average. Then lastly, we have one more quick mention to talk about, which is the current 4.11 grouping methods. What I mean by this is if you are trying to add an item to a group, you have 3 options. You have specific item, item level, and base item. All of these do their own unique thing, and they are used for different items. So I have covered this in a more TSM tutorial. I have kind of covered this in a more detailed light. So what specific item does is that it takes into account the specific item level of the item and any bonus stats that it is created, and it is that exact item. So you might have the same item that is named the same, has the same item level, but if the bonus stats are different, it will be targeted as 2 different items. This is perfect for, materials or anything of that nature. Then we have base item, and base item goes back to the basics. So it completely removes all of those bonus stats, and it goes back to the very base item level of that item. So for example, if I have 2 Crafter's Marks gear in my inventory, they are both Shadowlands helmets, but one is a novice piece at eye level 87, and the other one is, a Crafter's Mark 3 piece at 200. They will be counted the same because at the end of the day, their base item, which is, a Shadowlands helmet, is the exact same, so they will be calculated the same. This is perfect for any type of transmog, old world stuff that you just want to count all in one group. Then you have this place in the middle, which is the item level, and so it specifies the exact item level of the item, but it still removes the basic stats. So if we go back to the base item level with the 2 helmets, they will be counted different, but if there were 2 eye level 87 helmets, regardless of their bonus stats, they will still be counted the same, even though they are separated from the higher Crafter's Marks. And traditionally, you want to use this sorting method for legendaries and Crafter's Marks item. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Of course, you can kind of rewind this video and hopefully understand it a little bit more. Also, if you're still confused, feel free to ask questions. But specific stuff is mostly for materials. Item level is for legendaries and Crafter's Marks, and base items is traditionally for transmog. So if you are trying to mess with these, keep in mind that it only adjusts the ungrouped items. So if you have any current grouped items, you will need to remove them in order to mess with them. But yeah, guys, that is basically it. Hopefully, if you are somebody who uses TSM, at least one of these can be helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you guys have any more tips and tricks, or if anything in this video helps you, or if you just have any questions, feel free to let me know. Of course, enjoy your holidays, enjoy your weekend. Make sure you join the Discord if you want to be a part of our community, and as always, have a good day.